All right, so we're back on the 85 C10. We're going to wire up the dual fuel tank setup that we did in a previous video. Emily will make sure you have a link going to that thing.
There'll be a link somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
Somewhere.
This thing, we've done a ton of videos on this truck, but the dual tanks poses kind of a little bit of a problem. So we're going to show you how we go about wiring that dual tank system up. And this is going to be a great video. I've got a couple rants that I'm going to go on. So I'll complain about a couple things. I learned a ton about this, the fuel system, and I'll share that with you. But I already got the whiteboard out, so we're going to do a bunch of wiring. We've got the whiteboard, so that always makes for a great day. So. So let's get to it. It isn't all that difficult, and it isn't going to take all that long, hopefully. I got everything set up to go. These are all my wires that are coming up from both the fuel tanks. And then these are a couple of relays that we're going to wire up to make everything happen. So let's get to it, okay?
Sounds good.
Ready to go?
Yep.
All right, back at the whiteboard. Again, I love the whiteboard. You like the whiteboard as much as I do?
I love it.
I know, it's great.
Some learning's gonna happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can tell I drew this too. All the lines are perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
So awesome. Took me a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Drew that up.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a rant first. Okay,
all right.
Let's get one rant out of the way.
Love a good rant.
Yeah. All right. One thing, when we started doing videos, we didn't expect, to get the comments that we get or whatever, and every once in a while we get comments about stuff that people school us on things that I had no idea about. Okay. And when we did the fuel system on this pickup, I had never heard of the Corvette fuel pump. That is not a fuel pump, it's a fuel filter regulator, okay? And they look like this, okay? It's got a inlet, the regulated fuel outlet right there, and then this would be the 58 pounds pressure outlet, okay? So we did the video on the fuel system. I had never heard of these before, and somebody told us about these. Okay, so being the person that I am, crazy, right? I thought, well, let's give them a shot, and we could get rid of the solenoid that switches my return tank over to the other side, and just to eliminate having that solenoid and to eliminate having one relay to do that. So the whole thing would have been completely mechanical, and I thought that'd be the way to go. Okay, so I bought two of these a month ago probably, and I bought expensive ones. It wasn't a cheap one, and I bought the ones that come with the fittings for the outlet and everything. And each one of them, one of them was more than $75, and the other one was a name brand filter, something that you would, like if a person had to replace this thing someday, they would go to a parts store, they could buy one, name brand, put it in, and replace that filter regulator. Okay, so I went ahead and I redid my whole fuel system.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just eliminated that return line. I put two of these in, and I went and I fired it up, and one of them leaked fuel out of the fuel outlet. Okay? All right, so I've been doing this. I've been working on cars for a few years now.
Yeah,
right?
couple. Yeah.
I have never had a fuel filter leak like that I can remember. I'm sure one did here and there, but it was always because the line you know, something with a line was corroded, or the O-ring or something like that was bad, or whatever. But very rarely did I ever replace a fuel filter like these with these fittings on them and had one leak. Okay, so one of them leaked and one of them didn't. But that one leaking, that is enough for me that it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. This vehicle is not mine, and it's going to go out the door. So I have to know that someday when this needs to be repaired or replaced, that it is not going to leak. And so I will never use one of these again. That's just my opinion. If you've had great luck with them, I would love to know if I did something wrong with it. I'd love to know. But as long as I've been doing it, I have a hard time believing that it wasn't just, you know, something, a poor design. Okay?
Yeah.
And we all know that a Corvette was not, a Corvette is like what do you call them?
Experimental.
Yeah, experimental.
Yeah.
It's their experimental car, especially back then. Not now. Now they're sweet, but
Yeah.
when you're talking, I think these were C5 Corvettes, or is that right? I don't know. They stunk too. Whatever. Okay, so I will not use one of these. Okay.
Yeah. Plus, when somebody goes to replace their fuel filter in the future, they're gonna walk in and buy one and go, "Why is it $100?"
Well, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was my other thing. So by buying these and then redoing the lines, I spent over $160 on two filter regulators. So it's just natural that somebody is going to go into a parts store 10 years from now and they're going to buy the cheapest one possible.
Yeah.
And so I would, you know, constantly just be thinking, when am I going to get a phone call that either my truck burned down or I'm having trouble getting a fuel filter to stop leaking on my pickup.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that call. So everything that we did on that fuel system, if you go back to that video that we did, yesterday I went and I redid the whole system again. I put it back exactly the way it was. I did move the fuel filter just a little bit, and I moved the catalytic converter away from it just a little, but we put it back exactly the way it was. The only electrical part in the whole system is a solenoid that changes which tank the fuel returns to. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's all I really have to wire up, except for making power go to each individual pump, whichever one you decide to use. Okay. And so no. That's my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
So rant over.
Rant over.
Okay. Is that good enough?
That was a good rant.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate it. In our drawing that we have here today, we're going to make the drawing a little separate. This drawing is just the fuel pump, okay? And the way we're going to get the right and left tank to switch over to a different tank is we're going to use a relay, okay? This wire is going to come from the ECM. It's the gray wire that comes out of the connector number 3, that if you didn't have dual tanks, this one would go directly to your fuel pump at your tank. And so none of this would have to happen, but we have to make this one, which is powered by the fuel pump relay and controlled by the ECM, we have to make it run either tank, whichever one that we select, and that's what we're going to do. Okay?
Cool.
The way we're going to do it on our relay, our left-hand tank we're going to make that our primary tank, and we're going to run that wire to pin 30 on the relay, and then we're going to run our power wire that goes to our left-hand fuel tank. We're going to run it to pin 87A on the relay. So that's a normally closed connection between 30 and 87A. And so with nothing going on, That's what's going to happen. That power is just going to go from here, pass through pin 30 to 87A, and power up our left-hand fuel pump. Okay. When we're going to have to go in and change the switch a little bit. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But when we want to change over to the right-hand tank, we're going to close this connection here. We're going to give pin 85 12 volts right there, and then 86 is ground, and it's going to close the connection between pin 30 and 87, and it's going to fire up the right-hand tank then. And then, of course, 87A and 30, that connection opens. Okay?
Cool.
So the left-hand tank will not be working, but it'll be jumping to 87, and it'll fire up the right-hand tank.
Cool.
Okay? So to keep it simple, we're going to start by wiring up this one relay. We're going to do this wire going to it from the ECM. We will do the wire going to the left fuel pump and the right fuel pump also. And we do have to add another relay to this thing, so we'll wait for those next, and we'll talk about that when we come back to this. But that'll probably be the simple way to look at it. Don't you think? Alright, okay. I'm back in my usual spot. I feel like there's a hole getting worn in the ground right here. So, if you watch this wire this truck up, when I initially did it, I did it the hard way without the OEM, what do you call them? Fuse box. Yeah, and I ended up putting a different wiring harness on this truck and the original equipment fuse box. So that's a long boring story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-oh, fight going on.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Everybody being nice?
Get it, juice. All right, but we're not going to have to mess around with the fuse box, any of the connectors, anything like that on the original one. This is the original gray wire that come out from the connector number 3 that would go down to power up one of the fuel pumps, or the one fuel pump probably. So what we're going to do, I had Emily make a bracket for our relays, and looks nice. And we're going to mount, by the time we're done, we're going to have 2 relays down there. One of them is going to switch the fuel tank over to left or right tank, and the other one is going to switch the sending unit. So you know how much fuel you got in each tank. So let's start by taking our power wire that comes from the ECM, and we're going to run it to pin 30 on the fuel pump relay. Okay?
Okay.
Let's see. Let's cut all these wires to length too. They'll all end up being about like that. Alright, so our gray wire. It will go to pin 30, which is a red wire on this relay. Okay? Make sense? The bigger the wire is, the harder it is to solder. Isn't that weird? Oh, I see it. You see it?
Yep.
Ooh, I should have put some heat shrink on there. Okay. All right, so the next wire, our red wire, that is the one that feeds the left fuel pump, okay? And that is going to go to pin, which one?
87A.
Okay. So it's going to have a connection all the time with no power going to anything, right?
Yep. So if something went bad with that relay, it wouldn't not work. It would just default everything to the left hand.
Yeah. Or mostly with the switch, because like if you the connection in the relay could go bad, but this relay is rated for 30 amps. Okay. And I'll talk about that in a second, but just to check it, I checked the draw on both the fuel pumps, and both the fuel pumps draw about 10 amps, okay, when they're running. So when they're not running, they don't draw anything. That's strange. There we go. This thing works good for nose hairs also.
Oh, yeah.
You ever need to trim those nose hairs?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just saying.
I've noticed yours look nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So trim those. It says right there, caution, nose hair trimmer.
Juice.
All right. Okay. So that's pin 87A, that yellow one there, going down to the left-hand fuel tank. So technically, right now, if we go and we hit the key, we'll get fuel pressure. All right? You want to try it? Double check my theory or not?
Sure.
You ready?
Yep.
There we go.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Okay. So that works. And the way our return is set up, it would also return into that left-hand tank right now. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the right-hand tank. So the right-hand tank would get fed by pin 87 then, when this relay gets switched over, which is the blue wire. So our right-hand tank actually is a blue wire for some reason. I didn't even plan that, but it worked pretty good.
Wow.
Okay. And our right-hand tank is also going to feed power to the solenoid that switches over the fuel return. Okay. So it's actually going to get two wires going to it. This green one, that goes to my switch valve for the fuel return, and the blue one goes to power up the fuel pump. Okay?
Okay.
So that'll be the next thing that we'll talk about on the whiteboard. We'll show this return solenoid. Okay?
Okay.
Don't let me forget.
Okay.
All right, so pin 87 then is going to go to the right-hand fuel tank, or right-hand fuel pump, and it's also going to go to the return switch valve, right?
Yep.
There's my power that'll come out at 87, go down to the right-hand tank, and it'll also go to the solenoid that switches over the fuel return. Okay?
Okay.
So that's that. These two wires are for the fuel sending unit. We'll talk about that in a second. And these are the trigger wires, and we'll wire those up at the same time that we do the other relay. Okay?
Cool.
That's right. It is cool. Okay, so that green wire that we just did, we don't have a green marker, but blue will work. That's that other wire that we just did, and it goes down to the fuel return switch valve, okay? In its position where it doesn't have any power going to it at all, it defaults and it just drains off into the left-hand tank, okay?
Okay.
So in the event that the left-hand tank was being powered from pin 30 to 87A, no power going to that, and you're going to have all your fuel supplied and returned to your left-hand tank.
Cool.
Right?
Yep.
All right, so we say we figure out how to do this switch, figure out somehow how to do that, and then we end up turning this relay on. It's going to turn power from the ECM over to pin 87. It's going to supply the right-hand tank, and it's also going to supply power to that switch valve, which is going to start draining the return fuel into the right-hand tank.
Cool.
All right. Are you ready for rant number 2?
I am ready for rant number 2.
Okay, sit down.
All right.
Brace
ready.
yourself.
Let's do it.
All right. This thing. So a lot of people questioned us and they said, hey, why don't you use this? Okay. These things, believe it or not, in the late 1980s and 90s, and then all the years past that, I have been employed working on automobiles. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So back in the 80s, the late 80s, you would get into somebody's truck that had dual tanks, and there would be a little note usually next to the fuel tank selector that says, do not touch this. Okay? And the reason for that is because these are notoriously unreliable. Okay? The way these work, your fuel selector switch up in the truck, it wasn't a toggle switch like this. It was a rocker switch that you would have to push the button down on it, and it would supply power to this valve. And this valve has a motor inside of it, and it would switch to your different tank. Okay, and it had a return on it also. So that's why there's 6 valves. You got 2 in, 2 out, and then 2 returns. So a lot of people on LS swaps, they use these to do that. I can't tell you how many of these I replaced back in the 90s and early 80s. I'm dating myself kind of, aren't I?
A little bit.
Yeah. But that's why I don't like these. I hate them. I replaced them time and time again, and people would come back and have them fail again. Okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of people with dual tanks, they just decided, well, I'll just favor whatever tank this thing was stuck on.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. So that was the reason for the little note that says, do not touch this switch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They also, max pressure on this valve, and you can look it up. I don't think it says it. Oh, yeah, it does say on it. 65 PSI, max fuel pressure. Okay? The fuel system that we run, it's 58 pounds of fuel pressure. Okay, so that means you're borderline, you're right there on the edge of its max pressure. But the fuel pumps that we're putting in these things, they're capable of putting out way more than 65 pounds of fuel pressure.
Yeah.
It'll hit 100 pounds easily, 90 easily. So in the event that something went wrong with the return system on your LS swap or whatever, that pump is going to put out whatever it can put out. Okay, if you pinch off a return line, or if a pressure regulator quits working, it can go way past 65 pounds of fuel pressure. And this thing is rated for 65, and I don't know what happens to it after 65 pounds, but I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Everything that we put on that fuel system that we did, it's all rated for at least 225 pounds of fuel pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, So whatever happens to that system, everything that we did, it's going to hold the pressure. And I'm not going to rely on this thing. There's so many bad things to say about it. But, so that's it. That's rant. What rant was that?
That was number 2. So
that's rant number 2.
Number 2.
I think that might be the last rant for this video.
I don't know. I'm sure you can come up with something.
I'll rant about people not subscribing later.
Ooh, there you go.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so at this point then, we've got this wire done, these two, and this wire done. So the actual making fuel pressure part of it is done, except for turning that relay on and off to switch different tanks. So the way we're going to do that is I bought a switch for a pre 1980 switch.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's virtually, it looks the same. The bezel's not the same, but I go and I fix the bezel and put the bezel from the original tank over it so it looks like it. But this is a toggle switch, so it's an on-off switch, even though it has a bunch of extra wires going to it, because all these extra ones originally they went to control this thing. So we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to use 2 of the terminals. We're going to have a power wire going to that lead, and when it's off, there's not going to be any power going to anything. But then when we turn the switch into the right-hand tank position, it's going to feed power to this lead right here, and that is that wire there that is going to go and fire up that relay to turn it on and make fuel draw from the right-hand tank. Okay?
Cool.
So you do need a different switch. The 1985 switch won't work because it is a rocker switch. So you get one of those, and let's go and we'll wire this one in to the relay, and then we'll have to jump in the truck and we will wire the new switch up into it.
Cool.
Okay?
Sound good.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so originally on this 85, that this would be 2 of the wires that came out from that original switch, and we're just going to need one of them. I'm going to use the dark green one. It'll be the power comes from the switch to pin 85 on the relay to turn that relay on. And pin 85 on this relay is going to be this white wire.
Oops.
All right, this is the wire that is going to come from the switch. Okay, remember I'm just turning the switch into an on-off switch now. When we turn the switch down into the right-hand position, then power is going to go to pin 85 on the relay. Okay?
Cool.
So even now, if we went and I fired the truck up, no power going to anything, left-hand tank is going to work perfectly.
Cool.
Okay?
Yep.
Make sense? What are these other pesky wires?
I don't know. I was
Okay.
hoping you knew.
All right, remember I used the dark green one, okay?
Okay.
All right, we're going to have to go into the inside of the truck now.
Ooh.
Yes. All right, I've got the original wiring diagram for this truck. The pink wire here, it is hot with the key on. It comes from a fuse on the interior fuse panel. So this is the original plug that came to the original switch for it. So we're going to use those wires.
That's handy.
It is handy. Okay, so that's my power wire. And then we said we use dark green outside the firewall, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. Give them a good pull. Make sure you got a good connection. Alright, so a pre-1980 switch. When the switch is in the up position, this pin and that pin are open. So then when I flip the switch, then it's going to be connected, that pin and that pin, okay. And it's going to send 12 volts through the dark green wire that we did. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Look good?
Cool.
So, and then these two, no power or anything going to them. They're not doing anything. I'll get rid of it. Like I said, I'll come in here. I'll screw this in, and I'll fix the other bezel that goes around it to make it look good. So that's that. All right.
Cool.
So for now, let's leave it on the left-hand tank.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right. So where are we at? We have done the switch. So now we have this wire going to pin 85 on the relay. We have the switch connected, and we've got power going to that switch from the original power in that 85 pickup. Okay. So everything that we see right here is done.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yay.
So now we're going to add another relay because we got to know how much fuel we got in each tank. So
yeah. When
we switch the tanks over, it'll switch over to the different sending units. Yes. You want to draw it out, or you want me to draw it?
I should probably draw it out.
Okay. Okay, so now we got to do our sending units, so we know how much fuel we got in each tank. So this is where these two relays are going to be tied in together, and the way it's going to do it is when power is supplied from that switch, when we turn it over to the right-hand tank, along with turning the switch valve on and the fuel pump on the right-hand tank, it's also going to supply power to pin 85, and which is, in return, it is going to close the connection on 30 to 87, and it will make a connection to the right-hand tank fuel sending unit also, okay?
Okay.
So with no power going to that, 30 and 87A are going to be connected, and the left-hand tank will be reading, just like when these two are not, or when this one's not energized, the left-hand tank will be running, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. The way a fuel gauge works, on these, you've got power on this side of it, okay? So the power goes through the fuel gauge, and it's looking for a source to ground, okay? And so we're not going to have power going to anything on these on pin 30 or 87A or 87. It's just going to be a source to ground. So if you think of the fuel gauge as a light bulb, basically, if you put a light bulb in there, as your sending unit the resistance went up and down in them, that little light would get brighter and darker.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So no power there, no power there. If you put a test light on this one, you'd have a little bit of power, but we're just completing the ground circuit to the right hand and the left hand sending units. You definitely would not want to put power to those. It burns the sending unit out really fast.
Yeah.
So we got to add a wire here and then 2 connections, and then we have to do a ground on both of our relays, and we are all done.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's do it.
Do it.
Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna start working on our next relay. This is where it comes into play. I'm gonna set it down here in its spot, kind of help me keep it oriented. When I did this dark green wire coming from the switch, I actually should have tied both the trigger wires into that dark green one. So I'm just gonna cut this and redo that. Okay?
Okay.
I screw up sometimes.
Once in a while.
I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm only human.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll fix that first. Get that over with. I like to fix my mistakes and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything you want to rant about? I feel bad for being the only person that's ranting on the channel. Have you ever had to go to the DMV?
Yeah. Shout out to Kathy. Thanks for hanging out.
I think I'm going to do the ground black. Okay? The ground is kind of it finishes it. You know what I mean?
Really ties the room together.
Yeah. Alright, so there we go. We got both the trigger wires. Emily originally screwed that up, and she ran the one to just the fuel pump relay.
I did not.
But now we got them going to both. I come in, I saw that she had messed that up, and got that fixed. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so here we go. The sending units. We only got 3 wires left to do on this thing.
Sweet.
I wish the whole fuel system would have been that simple, but it wasn't.
Ripley. Hey.
So the white wire, it goes to the left-hand fuel sending unit. Okay, we know that because we wired it up, and I made it white. Ripley's mad.
Yeah.
What are you so mad about?
Why are you yelling? Oh.
Oh no.
Oh no, Juice's tangle. No, you're not. Come here. Both of you, hush.
So we want the left-hand fuel tank to be being read when there's no power going to anything. So that's going to be pin 87A on this relay.
Sweet.
Okay. Yellow to white. Oh, can't I get that right? You want to do this one? Huh? Huh? I just feel like nothing's going right today.
No.
I just don't know sometimes.
You ever take a bath in the dark?
You ever take a hot bath in the dark? Isn't it?
You can't tell from this one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it did. Okay, cool. Okay, so pin 87A is, or not 87A, 87 is going to go to the right hand tank sending unit. which is the yellow wire. Yellow wire that we did, but it's a blue wire on the relay. I sure would like to do this fuel system over again.
Oh, you mean a third time?
Yeah, I think I'm getting good at it.
That would be fun.
Okay. Good. All right. So, yeah, 2 more wires. Right?
Yeah, we gotta go to the fuel gauge.
Yeah. All right. So, this is the wire that comes out of the original truck's firewall. It goes to the fuel gauge. It goes from the fuel gauge and it went down to the fuel sending unit on this thing. That plastic switch valve thing, it used to be the thing that would switch over so you could see what you got in each tank, but
Oh, so it diverted fuel and also switched the sending units.
yep.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's going to go to pin 30 then on the relay. When it's not on, it's going to have a connection between the left-hand tank and the fuel gauge. And then when the relay does get turned on, it'll switch over to looking at the right-hand tank. All right, so that's it, except for the grounds. These grounds, I already have a ground going over to the firewall, ready to do this. It runs through the bottom of the box, so I can shove it in there and make it look good. But that's going to be our ground for it.
Sweet.
So we do this wire, and we will check it and confirm that everything works, and we're done.
Yay.
Then we can go buy fireworks.
Yay. You know what makes you feel better after redoing a fuel system for no reason?
What?
Blowing stuff up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would help. Loud noises, always better. Loud noises and angry neighbors.
Yeah.
2 of my favorite things. I like wiring. That's my other favorite thing. I love the wire stuff. I love loud noises. And angry neighbors.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be a great weekend.
it says 4th of July. You know?
Yeah.
It's the American way. Sure the ground's nice and good.
Yeah. Yeah, that one.
You gotta have a good ground.
Yeah. Stay grounded. That's what they always say.
Keep your ground.
Yeah. Hold your ground.
All right. So that's it. We don't have any more wires to hook up.
Yay.
Okay. Should we at least check it out and see if it works?
Oh, probably.
All right. Why don't you go check the fuel sending units and see if they work. So go ahead and turn the key on.
Okay.
And switch from left to right hand tank.
Okie dokie.
And you'll see the fuel levels in each tank.
Yay.
Okay.
So that's our left-hand tank. We hit our switch. Needles dropping. And that's our right-hand tank.
Oh,
So it works.
cool. Oh, I didn't know you were under there.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Yeah. She's hanging out.
Oh, well, it holds pressure. We know that because it pumped up to whatever, however many pounds.
Yeah.
And then it's sitting here holding pressure. So I'm going to drain the pressure off and I'm going to switch it over to the right-hand tank then. And we'll turn the key on
Okay.
and cycle it and we'll see if we get pressure built up. Okay?
Yep.
So we know the left-hand tank works because it just pressurized the fuel system.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll do it with it in the right hand position. If we get pressure, everything's fine.
Yep.
Okay?
Cool.
All right. So it's on the right hand tank now.
Okay.
I'm going to turn the key on.
All right.
Here we go.
Yep.
Works.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
So that's it.
Yay.
Uh,
Do you have any more rants?
I don't know.
Something
I'm
else
sure I
to
can think of
complain
something.
about? Or
No. I do have to clean all this up and make it look nice. I'll put it in a wire loom. You know, a lot of it ends up getting shoved underneath the fuse panel, so you don't see that. So it'll just be a couple of wire looms. On this truck, I've got the air conditioning physically done. I have to wire the air conditioning, and we also have to do a diagnostic link on it, an OBD connector, and a check engine light. And people have been asking us about that, so we'll do that one. If there's something you're curious about, drop us a line in a comment. Make sure you let us know. That's the only way we know what people are interested in.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we've got some pretty cool will it runs coming up. Got a 63 Chevy and a 87 Chevy that's throttle body injected, which will be a fun one to fire up.
That's another one that people have asked about is the throttle body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 87. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's all 87, so it's no LS swap stuff, but doesn't matter. Like everything, we hope that no matter what we're working on, you pick up something off it, you learn something. That's the whole idea with doing all this. So
Yeah.
plus, it's a lot of fun.
It is.
Okay, so make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate it a bunch. Ring that bell so you get a notification when we upload our next video. And we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.